The movie opens with a woman named Jessica, who recently lost her husband. Hoping to leave her painful memories behind, she sets out on a journey far away from the noise and suffocating chaos of the city, searching for peace on unfamiliar roads. We then see Jessica packing all of her belongings into a cargo trailer before heading out on a long road trip. At first, everything goes smoothly. She's enjoying the drive as she cruises down a deserted highway that cuts through the middle of a dense forest. But out of nowhere, she catches up to a black car crawling along the road. The driver is acting strangely. Every time Jessica speeds up to overtake, the black car suddenly accelerates and blocks her from passing. Not wanting to waste any more time, Jessica decides to pass from the left lane instead. But the black car matches her speed perfectly, refusing to let her merge back into the right lane. Just then, a massive truck appears in the opposite lane, racing straight toward her. Even with death staring her in the face, the driver of the black car refuses to slow down. At the very last second, Jessica jerks the steering wheel with all her strength and barely squeezes past the black car, escaping a horrific head-on collision by inches. Only a few seconds later, the same black car races back up behind her. This time, the driver starts blasting the horn non-stop, making the situation even more unsettling. When they finally reach an intersection, the two vehicles take different roads. Jessica immediately pulls over, taking a deep breath as she tries to calm her nerves. As night begins to fall, Jessica stops at a gas station to fill up her car. While pumping gas, she's talking to her father on the phone. Their conversation makes it clear that her relationship with her mother has been strained for a long time, and her dad keeps urging her to call and make things right. But in the middle of the call, Jessica suddenly freezes in fear. She looks up and sees the very same black car pulling into the gas station. Without wasting another second, she jumps into her car, starts the engine, and speeds away. Later that night, Jessica decides to end her drive for the day and checks into a small motel. Before going to bed, she unpacks a few things and quietly looks through old photographs of her late husband, bringing back memories she still can't let go of. The next morning, just as she's about to hit the road again, a mysterious man with one arm in a cast walks up to her. To Jessica's shock, he introduces himself as the man who was driving the black car on the highway the day before. Looking genuinely embarrassed, he apologizes to her for what happened. But after giving such a long explanation, the man suddenly starts asking Jessica some very strange and personal questions. He wants to know if she lives nearby and why she's traveling alone on such a long road trip. An unfamiliar man asking questions like that instantly makes Jessica feel uneasy. She quickly ends the conversation and drives away. A few miles down the highway, she spots the same black car parked right in the middle of the road. This time, Jessica goes on full alert. She immediately locks all the doors from the inside and lowers her window just a crack. The man claims his car's engine suddenly died and asks if she can give him a ride to the nearest gas station. Concerned for her safety, Jessica firmly refuses to let him into her car. Instead, she tells him she'll stop at the next gas station and send a mechanic back to help. Without wasting another second, she slams on the accelerator and speeds away. Later that night, she pulls into a deserted parking lot and calls her mom. She explains that this road trip is her way of moving on from the painful memories of her husband's tragic death. But then her heart sinks. The same black car pulls into the parking lot. Panicking, Jessica rushes back into her car. By now, she's convinced the man has been following her the entire time. He walks over to her window, but instead of talking to him, Jessica starts the engine and tries to escape. Just then, a white van suddenly pulls in and completely blocks her path. The man calmly explains that he only came to the area to use the restroom and insists Jessica is afraid of him for no reason. Jessica ignores every word he says. The moment the white van moves out of the way, she floors the gas pedal and takes off. Looking into her rearview mirror, she sees the black car following her once again. Terrified, she immediately calls the police. But because it's pitch dark and she's driving through a remote forest, she can't tell the dispatcher her exact location. Then, without warning, the black car races past her at high speed and disappears into the darkness ahead. That's when Jessica realizes something shocking. The black car never belonged to that strange man at all. It belonged to someone else. Just as she finally breathes a sigh of relief, disaster strikes. Jessica suddenly loses control of her car. It skids off the road and crashes into a deep ditch. The tire on the cargo trailer hitched behind her vehicle was completely blown out. Just then, the real black truck pulls up and stops outside. Jessica desperately tries to unhook the trailer from her vehicle, but before she can get away, the man steps out of his truck. She fights back with everything she has, yet he forcefully jams a sedative into her neck, and within seconds, she loses consciousness. When Jessica finally wakes up the next day, she finds herself trapped inside a dark, damp room she's never seen before. Thick iron bars cover the windows, making escape impossible. Looking outside, she sees an open yard completely surrounded by barbed wire fencing. Heavy footsteps suddenly echo through the hallway. The kidnapper walks into the room, and as Jessica breaks down, begging him to let her go, he coldly orders her to stay quiet before turning around and walking out. Later that night, he returns with a flashlight. He shines the blinding beam directly into Jessica's face, then leans in with a sick, terrifying grin that sends chills down her spine. Thinking fast, Jessica pretends she needs to use the bathroom. But the moment she lunges toward the door, the man reacts instantly, tackles her to the floor, and drags her back to the middle of the room. The following morning, Jessica notices that the room has been locked from the outside. Peeking through the keyhole, she realizes the key is still stuck in the lock on the other side. An escape plan immediately forms in her mind. She searches the room until she spots an old iron nail firmly embedded in a wooden beam. Using all her strength, she pries it loose. Next, she takes off her jacket and slides it underneath the gap at the bottom of the door. Then, using the iron nail, she carefully pushes the key out of the outside keyhole. The key falls perfectly onto her jacket. Slowly and carefully, she pulls the jacket back inside, bringing the key with it. Finally, the key is in her hands. She quickly unlocks the door and starts making her escape. But at that exact moment, the kidnapper returns home with groceries. Hearing him outside, Jessica's heart nearly stops. She rushes into a large wardrobe in the corner of the room and hides inside. Through a tiny crack in the closet door, she watches him enter, holding her breath and praying he doesn't hear a single sound. Then his phone rings. From the conversation, Jessica realizes it's his family calling. To her shock, the monster speaks lovingly to his young daughter, asks her to say hello to her mother, and lies that his business trip has been extended, so he won't be home for a few more days. The moment he heads downstairs into the basement, Jessica realizes this is her one and only chance to escape. Quietly, she slips out of the wardrobe and begins sneaking toward the exit. Jessica bursts through the front door and sprints into the dense forest with every ounce of strength she has left. When the monster climbs out of the basement and finds the room empty, it flies into a blind rage. As Jessica races through thick brush and over sharp rocks, her foot suddenly slips on a slick boulder. She crashes hard to the ground, and a long, razor-sharp branch drives deep into her foot. Fighting back tears, she painfully pulls it out herself, but the unbearable pain forces a small scream to escape her lips. And unfortunately, the monster hears it. The moment it catches the sound, it charges straight toward her at full speed. Moments later, Jessica reaches a deep, fast-moving river. There is no bridge, no safe crossing, and no other way forward. She realizes the monster is only seconds away. The river is deadly, and jumping in could easily cost her life. But to Jessica, drowning is still a far better fate than being caught by that nightmare. Without hesitating, she leaps into the raging water. The powerful current sweeps her far downstream, but somehow she manages to fight her way across and crawl onto the opposite bank alive. She's completely soaked, shivering from the freezing cold, and barely able to stand. Then she suddenly hears heavy footsteps coming from behind. As the figure gets closer, she swings a thick tree branch with all her strength. The instant it lands, she realizes she has made a terrible mistake. It isn't the monster at all. It's an elderly hunter who has been out in the woods. The old man is badly startled by the unexpected attack. Jessica immediately apologizes through tears and tells him that a savage monster is hunting her. Desperate for help, She asks to use his phone. But when the hunter pulls it out, he discovers that Jessica's blow has completely smashed it. Seeing how terrified and helpless she is, the kind old man takes pity on her. He leads her to his parked truck, gives her some of his wife's warm clothes and a pair of boots, and the two set off toward the nearest town. During the drive, the compassionate hunter even offers her a sandwich and tries to calm her down. But their brief moment of relief doesn't last long. A massive fallen tree suddenly appears across the road, completely blocking their path. Jessica's heart sinks the moment she sees it. She jumps out of the truck and desperately tries to move the tree aside, but it's far too heavy to budge. Just then, the terrifying predator suddenly emerges from the darkness of the forest. Thinking fast, he puts on a convincing act in front of the elderly hunter. He lies, claiming Jessica is his younger sister who suffers from a severe mental illness and has run away from home. But the old hunter quickly notices the violence hidden behind the man's behavior and the way he's trying to force Jessica to come with him. Realizing something is terribly wrong, he raises his shotgun and points it straight at the stranger. In the blink of an eye, the predator attacks. He brutally beats the elderly hunter, rips the shotgun from his hands, and turns it on him, killing him with a single shot. The gunshot echoes through the forest, sending Jessica into a panic. Knowing she's completely alone now, she sprints deeper into the endless wilderness, desperate to stay alive. As night falls, a violent storm rolls in. Freezing, exhausted, and bleeding heavily, Jessica crawls beneath a massive rock to take shelter from the rain. But even there, the predator tracks her down, sweeping the area with his flashlight. After several tense moments of silence, Jessica thinks he's finally gone. The instant she steps out from hiding, a bullet tears through the darkness and rips straight through her arm. The predator then begins a cruel psychological game. Hidden somewhere in the darkness, he shouts that because of her wound and the blood she's losing, she has no more than 2 hours left to live. He deliberately places his rifle on the ground and taunts her, saying she's completely free for the next minute if she wants to come out and fight him. He even mocks her dead husband, calling him a coward in an attempt to break her spirit. But Jessica refuses to fall for his mind games. She stays hidden and ignores every insult. Frustrated that she won't take the bait, the predator finally picks up his rifle and walks away. Completely drained from the night's ordeal, Jessica eventually slips into a deep sleep. The next morning, she wakes to sunlight filtering through the trees, still trapped in the same desolate forest. After walking for a while, she hears the sound of the predator's truck. Hiding behind the trees, she watches as he drags the innocent old hunter's body to a freshly dug grave and buries it without a second thought. When he's fully occupied with covering the grave, Jessica quietly sneaks toward his truck. The driver's door has been left open. She climbs inside and desperately searches for a cell phone, hoping she can finally call for help. The moment she finds one, she quickly hides in the back of the vehicle. A short time later, the predator returns and starts the truck, completely unaware that Jessica is hiding inside. While crouched in the back, she spots a heavy iron tire wrench, her first real chance to fight back. The psycho riding in the front finally realizes his phone is missing. He slams on the brakes and starts searching the vehicle. Jessica knows there's no point hiding anymore. She springs up from the back seat and with every ounce of strength she has left, smashes the heavy tire iron into the back of his head. The sudden attack catches him completely off guard. Enraged, he floors the gas pedal, sending the vehicle speeding out of control. One hand grips the steering wheel while the other blindly swings a razor-sharp knife toward Jessica. She fights back fearlessly, striking his arm hard enough to make the knife slip from his hand. Without wasting a second, she hooks the tire iron around his neck and begins choking him from behind. Then she grabs the fallen knife and drives it deep into his wrist. Bleeding heavily and overwhelmed by the pain, the killer loses control of the vehicle. Moments later, it crashes violently into a pile of wreckage. Bruised, battered, and barely conscious, Jessica struggles out of the twisted metal. As she looks up through her blurry vision, she spots a police helicopter approaching in the distance. For the first time, she feels a spark of hope. Using the last of her strength, she stumbles toward a clearing in the forest where she might finally be seen. But the nightmare isn't over. The killer somehow survives the crash and crawls out of the wreckage. Jessica still has his phone. She dials his wife, puts the call on speaker, and makes sure he can hear every word. She tells the woman his full name and says that if she dies in these woods today, her husband will be the only person responsible. Hearing that sends the psycho into a rage. He lunges forward and ends the call. Now there's nothing left to lose. The two face each other one last time in a brutal, bloody fight for survival. The killer charges at Jessica with his knife, but she's still holding the heavy tire iron. She blocks every deadly strike that comes her way. Then she spots an opening and slams the tire iron into one of his old wounds. As he stumbles, she tears the knife from his hand and, without the slightest hesitation, plunges it deep into his stomach with all the hatred and strength she has left. The blade sinks in. The monster coughs up blood, collapses to the ground, and dies. Watching the man who hunted her finally take his last breath, Jessica lets out a sigh of relief. A few moments later, the police helicopter landed nearby. The rescue team safely evacuates her from the forest, bringing her terrifying ordeal to an end. With this, the story ends here. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Also subscribe to this channel for more stories like this.